Hi, this is Carrie with Canary Quilts, and I wanted to show you my pattern, my Friday freebie pattern for October 29th, 2021. And I'm calling this a Peekaboo Wonky Log Cabin quilt. And the reason I'm calling it Peekaboo is because this large inside block here can showcase a lot of fabrics that you may have, like a novelty fabric, large print, small print, like down here in these smaller ones. So that's why I'm calling it Peekaboo. And then you can find corresponding fabrics to do this Wonky Log Cabin print on the outside of this block. So this week I have a 12-inch, a 9-inch, which I have here with a border, a 6-inch block, and a 3-inch block. And these are pretty tiny little blocks. So in this video I'm going to show you how I fussy cut this out, and I fussy cut this one out also. And then I'm going to show you how to put this together because it's different than a log cabin block, where usually a log cabin block you'll go around in a circle. This one you have to pay attention to the numbers because they can be just about anywhere in here. So I hope you enjoy this video, and if you make this block, head over to my Facebook page and show me a picture. Thank you very much. Welcome to Canary Quilts. You can get our free patterns in our free resource library located at canaryquilts.com. You can access this from the library access page. Scroll down the page to sign up for a free password to enter our free resource library, or click to enter the free resource library. Once in our free resource library, you will have access to all our free patterns and downloads. We put out a new free pattern every Friday. I hope you enjoy this video, and please subscribe to our channel so you will be notified of all our new content. Thank you. And this week we are going to be doing several of the same block, just different sizes. And I'm calling it a Peekaboo Wonky Log Cabin block. The reason I'm calling it Peekaboo is because I like to use some kind of novelty fabric on the inside of this block here. And then I use coordinating colors to go around it, and we have that wonky looking log cabin. So this is a 9-inch block that I put a border on. And then I've also got a 12-inch block, a 6-inch block, and a 3-inch block. So I'll show you what fabrics I have in store for these different blocks. So for the 12-inch block, I have this panel fabric. I saw it about a year ago, fell in love with it, wasn't sure what to do with it, and I made a bag out of it, and the bag turned out beautiful, but nobody bought the bag. I'll show you the bag. Here's the bag. It turned out really nice. I really like it, but I don't know that anybody else does. But anyway, I've got all these panels here that I'm not using, and I've got 4 cats, I've got these birds, and I've got I've got 4 cats. These 2 colors on this side, these 2 colors on this side, and for this project I'm going to be using this pink cat right here. And so I chose these pink fabrics to go with it based on what was in her fur and the background. And so she is going to be in this 12-inch block in the middle. So you can see that she's big enough to fit. And I'm going to put her diagonal like that. So that's going to be my 12-inch block. And for my 6-inch block, I've got this beautiful fabric that just has tons of things going on in it. That I could use several different scenes in the middle. I could use a cat. I could use this squirrel. I mean, there's apples. There's a hedgehog. There's birds on a flower. So, I mean, there's just so much going on in this fabric that I wanted to utilize it somehow, and this 6-inch block seems to be the best way to do it. And then based on the colors in the fabric, I chose these corresponding fabrics to go with it. And I chose this black because I want to be able to frame it here. I want to frame the center with this black, and it's got the same colors in the polka dots as I'm using here. So that's going to be my 6-inch block. And then my 3-inch block is going to be really interesting. And you can see how tiny it is. I think that's a 1 1/4 inch square on the inside. So I've got this crazy fabric here that I love. Again, I love. Made some bags, sold a couple, but they didn't sell real well either. And I've just kind of kept these scraps around. And I think what I'm going to do is use this zombie dude right there in the center of my little 3-inch block right there. And then for all these tiny pieces around, I'm just going to go through and find colors in this. You know, and I may alternate colors between this gray and this orange. And there's all of this here that really can't be used in anything, and this. So I may just alternate colors, I think, is what I'm going to do. And cut them out of this one piece of fabric. So I can utilize that fabric also that I'm not utilizing any other way. Whoops, so I am going to get all my pieces cut for these different blocks, and we'll come back and look at what I got. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about fussy cutting for this center piece right here. So this piece is this square in the middle is 2 3/4 of an inch square, but we need a bigger piece to go all the way around. So I've been looking at all these different scenes here and what do I want, and the bunny's too big, the cat fits great, and so does the squirrel, but I don't know that I really want to cut into the middle of my fabric just yet. And then I found this little hedgehog on the side here, and he fits great in a 2 3/4 inch block. Right there is that 2 3/4 inch line. So I think I'm going to cut a 3 1/2 inch square around him. And that way when we go to fit him in, we'll have some wiggle room to fit him inside of this block here. So that's just a little bit about fussy cutting. You certainly could go out here into the middle of your fabric and cut out that squirrel or that cat. Not quite there yet myself. So I'm going to cut my little hedgehog out here, and he's going to be the center of my block. So that's a little bit about fussy cutting for that middle block. So I wanted to talk about fussy cutting for this large 12-inch block. And you can see I have this 6-inch ruler, and it goes outside of the entire gray center block here. So I can use this entire ruler to cut my fussy cut. And I want her to be on a diagonal. So I am going to cut her just like this. And there she is. That's going to be my centerpiece. And so she'll sit just like that. And she overlaps just enough. So that's how I fussy cut for that center piece. Okay, so here's the pieces all cut for my 3 different size blocks. They're all 3 the exact same block, but they're 3 different sizes. So here's my big 12-inch right here. And this is my center and the cascading colors going out. Same for my 6-inch block, center, colors cascading out, and then my 3-inch block has my little zombie guy here, and then I'm going orange, gray, orange, gray, orange. So when we go over to the machine, take a look at the pattern before you start, because on a log cabin, usually we start in the middle and start just going around. But on a Wonky Log Cabin, that's not the case. So take a look at where you're going to be going here. You're going to be A1, A2, A3, and then you're going to go up to A4. And then A5 is down here, and you'll be doing A5, A6, A7 on this side, and then you'll come back to the next to the centerpiece and doing A8, and then A9 is over here next to A2, and then A10, and then A11's down here, A12, A13. So just keep in mind that you're not going to be doing a circle, so just keep looking out to where you need to go to next on this wonky pattern. Okay, I'm set up over at my sewing machine. I've got my 3 blocks that I'm going to be working on with the first 2 pieces I'm going to need, which is the center piece and the A2 piece for all 3 of these. And I've got the tools I'm going to need, which is my add a quarter, which is indispensable when you're doing paper piecing, because you can just butt it right up to that and cut a 1/4 inch seam. I've got a piece of junk mail that I'm going to use to put in here so I can fold the paper over on the lines. I've got a small rotary cutter. I've got a large rotary cutter. I like the large one for this large block. And then I've got this cutting board here that rotates if I need it to rotate. Plus some washi tape, because I use it to tape down the first couple blocks. Okay, so I'm going to get started here. I'm going to get all 3 blocks ready to go to the sewing machine. So I'm going to lay this, oops, I need to turn this over. I need to work on the other side. And you can see this is newsprint paper I found in a ream off Amazon, which is great. You can see through it, it rips up easily. So I'll put a link to this down below in my description on where you can find this paper on Amazon. It's inexpensive too, for 500 sheets. So I am going to lay this down, and I want to be a 1/4 inch around all sides of this center block, but I want to make sure she's in the middle, which she is. Let's line up my points with the points of the square. And she is entirely inside this block. We've got all our edges covered. I could come this way just a touch. And then I'm going to tape her down, but not over my A2. Because A2 is where we're going to be sewing, which is, where is my A2? Oh, it's up here. My A2's right there. So let's make sure I didn't move this. Okay. So my A2's right here, so I'm going to tape down here. I'm going to tape all 3 sides because on this big piece I want to trim her down to a 1/4 inch if needed. So she's taped down on 3 sides. So now I'm going to turn this piece over, make sure she stays flat, take my junk mail, and right here is my A2 is right there. So I am going to fold my paper on the A2 line. And that junk mail helps make it a nice crease. And I'm going to use my add a quarter, butt it up against my junk mail and my paper, and then I'm just going to cut, and I can move it along like that. Just cut that down to a 1/4 inch. Okay, so that is ready. I'm going to flip it back over.
And my A2's right here. I'm going to take my A2 piece and I'm just going to lay it there. And since it's so big and I don't want to lose it, I'm going to also tape. I'm going to tape this down below the line that I am going to be sewing on. For the smaller ones, I don't think we'll need to do this, we'll see. But for these first couple pieces, since they're not secure, I just tape them down like that. So now when I go over to my machine, I will be flipping this over and I'll be sewing right along this line right here, stopping and starting right there and right there. Again, sewing on this A2 line.
So now that we've done pieces A1 and A2, I'm going to walk you through how to do pieces A3 through A21 in this block. So grab your piece of junk mail or whatever you're using, fold on the next line that's going to be sewn, and then we're going to grab our add a quarter and cut our 1/4 inch seam allowance. And because the add a quarter butts right up to the paper, it's easy to push along and you can get your 1/4 inch seam allowance cut. So then we're going to turn it back over to the fabric side, grab the appropriate color fabric we're going to need for our next piece, line it up, make sure there will be coverage, and take it over to the machine.
Okay, I got my 6-inch block done. Did it exactly the same way as I did my 12-inch block, which you watched me do. Only difference is they're just smaller pieces. It's not any easier, not any harder, just smaller pieces. So when we get back to sewing table, we'll do just like the other one and we'll cut along these seam allowance edges on the outside here. So there's my 3-inch tiny little wonky peekaboo log cabin quilt. So since it's so tiny, I'm gonna just trim it up here. So you can see from my board here, I've got basically a 3.5-inch square block because of the seam allowances. And then that's what it looks like. I wasn't too sure when I was doing it. I didn't think the colors were contrasty enough. Probably could be a little better, but it turned out pretty good. Because of it being all cotton and not batiks, it looks 3D in person. It just looks like it just goes right down to him. But yeah, that turned out pretty cool.
So now we're going to trim our block, our large block, and we're going to use the outer seam allowance line. Don't use the inner line, use the outer line. You need that 1/4 inch seam allowance. And just trim right up that line. And just keep turning it and trimming it all the way around until you have your block trimmed. So now you can turn it over and admire your work. That block turned out really nice. I love all those colors. And then I'm putting down the 6-inch block I did and the tiny little 3-inch block. And you can see that the cotton fabrics in the small block are much thicker than the batik, so it kind of sticks up a little. It's not a problem. It's just a much thicker block than the other two. At this point, you can start ripping the paper off the back of your block. And as you can see, because of the newspaper print we used and the small stitch length at 1.5, it makes it pretty easy to pull off the back. I had my little awl there just to help me get my fabrics or my paper pushed up so that I could start ripping, but other than that, it just is perforated and rips off really clean.
Okay, we got all our papers pulled off, and I just loved how the back of a paper piece looks. It's so gorgeous. So we're all done with these blocks. I did make another 3-inch block here. The zombie block is just a little too thick for me. It's too much cotton. I like the batiks. I like how they lay flat. So I chose a mushroom out of the same hedgehog fabric and then made a little 3-inch block out of that also. Didn't take much time. So there you go. That's how you do this wonky log cabin block. I appreciate you watching the video, and I'll see you in the next video.